Welcome to Surround Presents, the podcast uncovering the untold stories and breakthrough ideas shaping the world of design. From bold innovations to behind-the-scenes insights, we explore the people, projects, and perspectives redefining the built environment. Each episode highlights standout voices from the Surround Network alongside thoughtful collaborations with industry partners, delivering fresh inspiration for designers, architects, and creative leaders everywhere.
And I think every architecture firm needs to be a startup now because the foundation of our business is gone. All the tools that we have available are so quickly changing. This is a really entrepreneurial period right now.
Welcome to Barriers to Entry, a design innovation podcast on the Sandow Surround Podcast Network. This is the show where we obsess over the not-too-distant future of the architecture, design, and creative industries and the ideas, tools, technologies, and talent that will take us there. I am Andrew Lane, co-founder at Digby and House of Digby, and for the first time ever, I'm not joined by Bobby Benet, but I'm just a little nervous, and I'm going to phone in a friend, producer Rob. This is my first time hosting a podcast solo. You know, when BTE started, my wife and co-founder Tessa also joined us. So there was three of us to kind of pick up the slack. Mm-hmm. I've got no one with me here. Matthias is going to need to carry the entire load of laughing at my jokes. But any tips for a rookie?
Let me tell you, first of all, never give the microphone to the producer because he's going to want to be the star of the show. And here I am. No, I think you're going to do great because this is an informative podcast. Stick to what you know best, getting the best information out of the guests and keeping it fun and light. You don't need a crutch of Bobby because you've got all of the power inside of you, Andrew. I promise you're going to do just fine.
Wow.
And don't tell Bobby I said that because he is my boss.
Right. And I love this, that you're like sort of positioning yourself for a bit of a daily affirmations business. I'm feeling ready to pod.
I've got a whole new career pivot I'm bringing to the Surround Network, and it's going to be great. But I will not overshadow your time. This is your show. You have everything you need right at your microphone tips, and you're going to be perfect.
I appreciate that. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough.
Yes.
Doggone it. People like me. Call back there for anybody from the old SNL days. But you know what? I'm even more comforted, Rob. Thank you so much, because today's guest is actually a friend of the pod, a former guest from the first season of Barriers to Entry. Very excited to be welcoming Matthias Hollwich, the founder of HWKN Architecture. Matthias had joined us what feels like decades ago, but only a couple short years, to explore architecture's frontier in the metaverse, back when that was a very big focus of our conversations on Barriers to Entry. You're back now to discuss how your studio continues to push the boundaries between physical, digital, and human worlds. Matthias is an architect, an author, an urban visionary. His work blends social purpose and innovation, and his firm was named one of Fast Company's most innovative of 2024. Huge congrats there for the forward-thinking approach to human-centered and technology-driven design that they're taking. And we are going to talk about today. Very thrilled to have you back. Welcome to the pod, Matthias.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, super excited to be back here because I still remember our conversation, which was so inspiring. But the world has changed so much. So there's so much new to report about.
I know, it's amazing. And I love, you, and we've stayed in touch even off the pod. And it's been so exciting to follow your journey. I was giving a talk about AI, and I actually I'm referencing some of your early concept work that we're going to get into here in the pod in just a second. But I think one of the coolest things that's hot off the presses is the Fast Company recognition, I should say. Can you talk a little bit about how that went down, what that was like, and what you've kind of seen as a result of being on that short and prestigious list of most innovative companies?
Yeah, we were very, very honored to be included in that list. And you never know what you apply, and you show your best kind of work and the kind of type of research that is relevant for innovation and putting a not very innovative driven profession like architecture to the forefront. And we really hit a nerve with our research into how we can adapt AI into our workflow. And of course, there's so many people now applying AI in one way or another. But what is exciting about our approach is that we're using it for a very realistic approach combined with a visionary approach, so that we can actually build these kind of visions that are emerging. And that was a recognition, right? Because we're not just creating cool, new-looking architecture. We're actually creating new environments that are being built at the current time.
No, that's amazing. We're going to dive a lot more deeply into kind of how you're using AI, because I think it's going to be fascinating for our guests. But as I mentioned off the top, you were on the pod before talking about your work in the metaverse, and you as a firm are drawn really to the edges of what's next. Can you talk a little bit about what it is that connects all that exploration that you're doing with the actual human practice of design? Because this isn't just technology in a bubble. You're bringing this for people.
I'm always driven by curiosity, which I think makes the novelty of our firm. Every day is a new day, and I look into the world and see what's kind of happening. And 3 years ago, I was sitting together with a couple of my tech friends, and they're all from Google, Meta, and Apple. And they pulled out their phones and were like, "Hey, did you try DALL-E? Put in some words and there's art," right? And I was like, "Oh my God, my life is over. This is it." Literally. I was like, that will be the most radical change in architectural design for the last 100 years. And I decided to use it actually as an opportunity, right? Because you can either way try to find it, or you can embrace it and explore with it. And by seeing that AI is kind of the collective knowledge and also creativity to a certain degree of the world that had been produced in the last couple of years, why not utilizing this? And I sent my whole office into a mission of exploration and adaptation. And we declared 3 months of pure kind of fun and exploring. And what was fascinating is that, first of all, everyone was thrilled by it. Nobody was threatened. And we suddenly saw so many different new user cases, new design applications, new forms and languages that we hadn't seen before. And that is, for me, kind of the power that we can unleash with this kind of new technology. But then we have to direct it into the right purposes, right? And that is where we come back to the human-centered kind of component to it, where we have to always keep in mind, right, our places that we create are meaningful for people in one way or another. But what we have seen now in our explorations that AI can really deliver.
So I want to keep playing off of that. You've said previously that architecture should empower life. So how is it that you're grounding the team in this idea of empowering life while you're doing all of this, cutting edge experimentation at the same time?
Yeah, so by basically suspending judgment at the beginning, right, and just let the process run its course. And then sitting together and evaluating and seeing what has a benefit and what is aligned with our values is something really important to me. And one of the things I have to say, my architectural cohorts, when you look around in the world, there's not much good architecture that was really created in the last 100 years or more.
Okay.
Right, so you have some fantastic buildings which were done with some of the geniuses in our profession, but a lot of buildings are rational, kind of geometric, functional, but they're not emotional, right? And they're not social.
Yeah.
And in the end, who are we as people, right? We are emotional people, we're social people, and when we have a choice of where we consume architecture, that means when we travel, where do we travel? We're not traveling to New Jersey to go into like an industrial area, maybe because there's a great rave, right? Yeah. Because there's maybe some activities. But we would go to Paris, into the city center, and we're going to love the kind of geometries of this kind of grown, beautiful buildings and places. And what we now see with AI is that you can actually deep research qualities that people want in a location. You can extract that kind of information and translate it into designs. And then actually, now we're looking further into the future, but not that far of a future. We can look also into new types of manufacturing of buildings that will be in AI enhanced through the robotics, where we can actually create a whole new set of buildings that are going to excite us beyond today's imagination.
Well, I love how you went right after the architecture profession, but apologized to New Jersey.
Well, I designed a lot of buildings for New Jersey.
New Jersey's great. New Jersey's great. It's lovely to peer across the Hudson, right? I was going to follow up on that idea of the fact that, you said that a lot of the architecture is very kind of structured, very derivative. That's a word I'll put in your mouth there. Why is it that you think that architecture has gone in that direction, and kind of bringing it back? How is it that you're seeing technology as a way to maybe revitalize that direction?
Yeah, I think two things. It's basically ideology and money. And the ideology comes from modernism. When you look back 100 years ago, when basically the industrialization of architecture and the construction industry emerged, in Germany would be the Bauhaus as one of the movements. And you started to design buildings that were based on a column grid. You had a curtain wall facade, right? And these typologies have evolved over time. And then, of course, you had to make it more affordable and more, with that, buildable. And all of these kind of trends kind of made most buildings very, very generic and exchangeable. And then there's also a reality for architects, right? Actually, design is very expensive. And the problem is we're always at the beginning of a phase where investors and developers are very, very hesitant to put a lot of money in because it's the highest risk money versus later when you build a building. Now, with AI and these kind of new tools, right, you can now actually optimize your design process with the client. You can show them new options that maybe surprise them, that maybe don't break the bank, and you can analyze actually the buildings much faster about economy and also ecology and all other kind of things, but let's stay with economy. And then you can look into new ways of putting pieces together, right? And I think the value proposition for the architects become different. But then also in the end, the value proposition for a client can become different. So for example, for a project where we won a competition in Amsterdam, we presented our client in the competition, not just an architectural design. We actually also showed them a global analysis of the most desirable office spaces that would be targeted towards their tenant that they desire. And we were showing them what are in the neighborhoods, what are the buildings they're in, what are the properties of the buildings, and all of these kind of things. And we were able to use the data to create a building that incorporated all of that, but added like a whole other level of design. So that gave our client the comfort that we go into the right direction, right? Because they say like, oh, I got it. I want that tenant in my building. You're designing for this tenant, but that building also fits into Amsterdam because it's contextual and it's emotional because I look at it, it's awesome, right? So that's the opportunity.
I love that example. And I mean, that's just sort of a tip of the iceberg in terms of the way you've kind of reinvented your work. But like, talk a little bit about how your process as a firm is evolving, because, that's probably work you didn't do or wouldn't have thought to have done 5 or 7 years ago, probably work that most firms aren't doing, but something that's very available to you now. And obviously everyone knows, not just in architecture, but like visuals sell. People want to see the thing. It's your job to imagine it. So, talk about how you've been able to bring the imagination of the team and the capabilities of the technology together to start to deliver some of these things.
Yeah, so we have different processes that we deploying. But let's say if it's a traditional architectural commission or competition, the first key thing is really deep research because right, you have to understand the site. So it used to be right, the architect went to the site and was like, oh, here's the sun, here's the wind, here's the so.
Put your finger up in the air and yeah.
I know. So since COVID, and admittedly, I have not been to some of my buildings ever that got built. But now what we can do is actually deep research to really understand the location, the sentiments, the purpose, the goals, the visions. And we don't have to wait for a brief from somebody else who tells us what the building should do. We can develop that actually economically now through AI research tools to be able to have a very founded, very strong basis of design that is not arbitrary anymore, right? Because every developer wants to avoid arbitrary decisions, right? Because for them, it's hard money, right? They need to say, we had the right on the target. We have the opportunities to build that kind of envelope. We need to look into efficiencies. All of these kind of things are really, really important. And then what we're doing, we after that research, we engineer prompts, right? And these prompts then are developed. It takes 1 or 2 days where my team basically puts these things together with multiple iterations. So you see spreadsheets, which are endlessly long with different kind of commands. And then we're running a visual kind of visioning kind of process. And then, of course, you still have to be the one who is the arbitrary or the one who's doing kind of creative selections, where we're looking into which direction then follows actually the best, where we can judge a direction. And then parallel, what we're doing, we always go through the technical kind of feasibility too, and then we're merging the two. And what you hear here already is that we're not using one AI in one simple process. We're actually stitching different AIs together because there are different ones good for different reasons. And then we bring them back together for a holistic design presentation with our client.
And this is all just stuff you discovered through a lot of experimentation, I'm assuming, just playing with things and figuring out which levers got you the right results.
Yeah, and so thankfully I have an incredible team which is like super curious, and we redocumenting our workflow all the time, which is actually really fascinating. I had a firm for 15 years and I could have shown you the workflow. That is how we do things. And now we're updating our workflow every 3 months because a new tool pops up, a new way how we can maybe achieve our results better, faster, more predictable.
Is that an actual mandate that you're going to like you review every 3 months with the goal of updating now then?
Absolutely. And I think we have turned from an architectural firm into a startup.
That's great.
And I think every architectural firm needs to be a startup now because the foundation of our business is gone. All the tools that we have available are so quickly changing. This is a really entrepreneurial period right now.
One of the things, like to that point of being a startup and reinventing your business, when I'm talking to people out in the world in firms about AI, one of the big things that comes up a lot is how do we think differently about how we make revenue? Because people say, oh, if you're using AI, then shouldn't you just have way less hours because your work goes by faster? Can you, without giving away too many trade secrets here, give us a sense of how you've thought about creating, I guess, new services that allow you to potentially charge for things you had never had any business looking at a few years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always the first question from developers, right? Is it going to get cheaper to hire the architect? Yeah. And my answer is always like, look, you always underpaid us anyway, so let's just be fair for once. But no, it's true, right? If you do things faster, people always think that you should pay less for it. But in the end, the quality is what you need to generate, and also the novelty, because that is in the end what really makes a difference for buildings in terms of marketing, in terms of the emotional connection to the future tenants, and so on. But for us, what it helped us to do is to break into new markets. Number one, we never really were super comfortable to do the interiors beyond some of the key interiors of our own buildings. But now we have expanded into full hospitality kind of offerings. We're designing now multiple hotels from the inside and outside, and that's in the Middle East. We have currently, I think, 8 hotels in the making. We are also doing a giga yacht, which I would have never imagined to do in my life. Because I would have never dared to try to find a client with it. But through our process now,
people are coming to you.
Yeah, and we can apply the creative thinking, how we actually extract information to all of these different things. We could go also into products, of course, right? Because now our architecture thinking is really interesting, and applying that now with liberty of into different kind of scopes. I think that's where it becomes super, super interesting. And then the other thing is, I think we architects need to take control again about the future of construction. We had surrendered it because it became a whole industry of prefab and curtain walls, and you have all of these big industries. And now it is also changing again. They have not really felt it yet, but it will come. And we architects can actually start to advise some of these startups or become part of the startups who bring in robotics with AI, which maybe do custom stonework that will be a future that you can apply to buildings again. Right. So there are new business opportunities that we have to explore ourselves and participate in it. Because definitely the traditional business case for architects is eroding at this point.
No, that's really compelling. Before I move on, I know what a mega yacht is, but what makes it a giga yacht?
Yes, I had to learn that. I think when you're above 145 meter, yes.
It's not how many water slides it has on it or anything like that?
No. It's just size matters,
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So this is amazing. And I want to kind of go back to your team, because a huge part of being able to change from being an architecture firm to being a startup is something that, could cause some friction, could cause some challenges within certain groups. So you said something early on that in your 3-month sprint where you reimagined how the firm would work, that nobody was threatened. Can you talk a little bit about how you set up the conditions for this transformation that you think was really important in making sure that no one was threatened? Because we heard a stat recently that 50% of the people who are using AI at work aren't even telling their bosses that they're doing it because they're afraid it's going to make them look like they're less productive or replaceable. Now you're the boss and you're telling everyone, no, go do this. How do you do that in a way that natural human instinct to say, oh my Lord, my boss is trying to get me to eliminate my own job? How do you create comfort in that kind of an innovative environment?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? I never really thought about it on that perspective, what you just said, the threat of people.
Probably why you were successful, to be honest.
Yeah, thankfully I never thought about it. So the trick is total empowerment and total transparency with the team. And there was never a top-down approach where I was basically like, okay, these are the tools, now you have to use them. It was much more like, find the tools, report back to the tools, show us the user cases, become the expert, present it to the team. And with that, basically let the knowledge grow. And with this, you become a essential part of the firm, right? Because you are now an expert in something that it's not replaceable. Right? Maybe some of your design work becomes replaceable, but now you're the technical expert in the process of design. And there are two different things that also needs to happen, right? So the good thing is we are a firm that can grow, right? You feel it, right? When the firm changes directions, when we get new commissions, everyone kind of sees that kind of energy coming in. Of course, I can imagine if you're like part of a 10,000 person firm, and your work is an administrational kind of process, and you realize that your process now can be done in 10% of the time. yeah, I would be scared, but then I would also immediately go deeper, learn about it, and try to become essential, and maybe find new ways how actually the expertise can be applied. But I think that is right now the moment. I think we all have to put our entrepreneurial hat on, because the changes are really, really fast for all kind of industries in a very surprising way. And we have to basically innovate within to find out these new processes, but also new businesses, right? And that can be very exciting, right? But I can see that some people are really afraid of.
So if you've got a whole firm that's full of specialists and people who are being encouraged to learn and innovate, what are some of the things, you mentioned every 3 months you're doing more of a thorough operating system review, but what are some of the things you're doing on a regular, maybe even a daily basis that's, designed to capture all of the new ideas that are coming out and to make people feel heard as they're learning?
Yes. So first of all, we have a Slack channel, which is AI, right? So anything when people find something or they generated a new process or have something they find interesting goes into that channel. Everyone sees it and can basically enjoy, ask questions and learn from it. We also have lunch and learns, right? So where from time to time people present a new process that they found out and can basically educate everyone within. And so these are the things that we try to basically kind of make transparent within the process. But of course, some ideas kind of drop off, and then it's like, hey, wait, haven't we figured this out before? It's like, can we go back to it? And then it's like, oh yeah, this is how it was, right? So this is just, I think, the nature of a business when you don't have kind of fixed rules yet, right? Because they're always rewritten. But I feel like we always caught it when the time was right.
No, that's amazing. You mentioned the Giga Yacht, but are there other kinds of new collaborations and new kinds of work that are spawning from this process? And obviously now you've built yourself a reputation as a firm that's operating in this space. So just kind of what sorts of energetic and new things are coming your way as a result of having been a leader in this new way of working?
Yeah, there's one really exciting other project that we're doing right now. Cannot tell you where and what, but I can tell you the process.
It's not on Mars or in a space station or anything?
No.
Okay.
It's in the middle of America, actually, which is fun. And I'm flying there tomorrow. So the task was to do a big master plan for a very big area with a lot of sports activities. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, have you guys done some studies before? And so they sent me like binders and binders of master plans. I was like, oh my God, you have done 20 master plans. Do you need one more? It's like, why do you need one more? It's like, yeah, but they were not right. We have to figure it out and so on. Maybe you can take them all together and figure it out. And it was like, okay, let's not do a master plan. Let's do a workshop. And so I basically asked my team then to generate basically goals through AI deep research, right? Where we said, like, what could be the goals for our client for that kind of neighborhood? And then what we also were doing, we actually used visual AI where we looked for new activities within the locations that AI could find at that location, and also the branding of the company. And then we generated thousands of images. We selected 200. And so I go into this boardroom. We have 200 images on one side. We have a mission statement and questions on the other side. And I asked basically my counterpart just to invite the most relevant people possible. And I go into this room, everyone is sitting there, and I'm like, okay, my name is Matthias. I have to apologize. I will not ask who you are, what you do. I'm going to give you dots. And here are the dots. Go to this board. You have 15 minutes and show me the 10 activities that you're excited about. And everyone was like, okay. So they put the dots up there. Then I was like, okay, thank you so much. Now I have another color of a dot. And now you have one dot to put to the one that you're really in love with. And now tell me why and who you are. And the first person got up and she walked to the thing, put the dot on it, says like, I'm the like the second top person of the firm. I'm like, holy shit, how did I just treat her, right, as like a regular person? And she was like, this is what we need to do. This is amazing. It's this place. I know exactly where it needs to be. Can I show you? And everyone did the same thing. And what we did basically within 2 days of workshops, we had a master plan reinvented with everyone already bought into it, saw themselves, saw the opportunities, and it's approved. And they looked at me and was like, oh my God, we have like thousands of pages of master plans. Nobody could agree on it. And we all agreed and we're moving forward.
I love that you started with AI and ended with stickers.
I know, right?
I'm really curious, as you gain more and more opportunities, what do you think, the opportunity is, maybe for your firm or maybe for other firms, to start to reimagine landscapes, to start to reimagine, and going back to that earlier conversation point we were on about sort of the sameness of architecture. What is the bigger vision opportunity here?
Yeah, I think, right. So you had movements before. You had modernism, then everyone did like their boxes with their kind of white cubes and curtain walls. Then you had postmodernism, right? So where people went to Italy and kind of copied beautiful Doric columns. Then you had deconstructivism, where you was like, questioning modernism and so on and so on. And then you had star architecture, right, with Rem Koolhaas, Herzog de Meuron, Zaha Hadid doing like incredible work, but all driven by their own design philosophy and try to be very individual. But now is the time to dream about what are really kind of designs that places can be defined that we either way have never seen before, or that make a place a better place. Meaning, for example, we did a whole study about New York City. When you ask people, what are your favorite buildings in New York? It's always the same. Empire, Chrysler, Flatiron, all the buildings that people know from the 30s, right? And they were very portrayed in all of the legendary movies. Now, what we had done is we used all of these buildings. We used AI to analyze the properties, proportions, and materiality. And we came up with 10 to hundreds, but then selected 12 different designs that kind of use the DNA of old New York into a new interpretation of New York. And what this does is that it actually makes New York more New York. Right? Because you already want to build onto a character and you want to actually intensify the character, right? So that could be one approach. Or you could say you have a concrete jungle, also New York, but many other places. And you can say like, it needs to become softer. It needs to become more human based, or it needs to become much more landscape based. So what are the elements that we can bring in? And we can use that as one of the design inspirations, right? So what I believe now is for everyone to dream again about what is really important for us as people in our places, and forget a little bit like, oh, this is the architectural theory, this is the architectural technology, this is the rationality that we need to bring into these buildings, and reboot and really go back to the essence of what creates great places. And then what I very excited about is that there are going to be 100 different answers from 100 different architects. Right? We have one answer because we have one belief. We are more contextual, right? We like rougher materials, and we're bringing in different kind of maybe inspirations from nature, and that's kind of what we do. Other people are going to have other things that they're going to use as kind of results. But what is so exciting here is everyone in a firm now has a creative partner. And sorry, Andrew, today you miss your partner, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm lost.
Right, but so how fun it is actually to do things with other creative minds and people who challenge you. And we can use AI now as that kind of creative partner from time to time, right? Not all the time, just to kind of get us out of our comfort level but then also maybe help us to think a little bit beyond our limits that we have.
I love that. I'm inspired to maybe get an AI co-host if this ever happens.
Yeah.
Again, the last kind of point on this that I'm curious about, because you guys are out in front, you're trying things before a lot of other people. What are some of the sources or what are some of the routines that are inspiring you to take leadership position, to come up with new ideas, like whether they're things you're reading or the sources you're looking at? What's keeping you and the team inspired?
I think after I left the Office for Metropolitan Architecture with Rem Koolhaas way back when, in 2000, out of Rotterdam, I felt I had to reinvent myself in one way or another, because working for a company like this really defines you for life. Mm-hmm. And I looked into non-architectural inspirations to actually get inspired for architecture. And one of the first ideas was where I looked into using the internet to co-design buildings. And we called it e-tech, and you could customize designs through parametric design engines. We were a little bit too early, right? But it came out of technology to innovate within. Then I founded Architizer, the largest social media company for architects.
Now another standout company, yeah.
Yeah, and there was also, right, how can we use technology to help architecture, not architecture itself, but young professionals to get a voice, to get ahead, to get basically commissions, so that not the typical firms always get the same commissions. And then the metaverse came up, right? And the curiosity went into that kind of world. And now AI is there. And I'm curious all about that kind of new technology.
So the technology is a bit of the lead then?
It never overpowers, because in the end, I want to have buildings that people feel comfortable within, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, the biggest joy is when a building is built and I see people engage and having fun and making new friends and so on. That is my ultimate goal. But it always is driven or enabled through some of the new technologies that the world is producing. And we live in a really exciting time when you think about it, how many radical innovations have happened in the last couple of years, and we were able to participate in it.
No, absolutely. That's definitely an inspiring time. And this was really inspiring to chat about it with you. We do a couple things on the end of every podcast. Hopefully you still remember, but Bobby would usually be the one to give you the chance to plug, because he's constantly promoting things. So I apologize to any longtime listeners who didn't get enough promotion in this particular episode. But are there any projects you can talk about, or is there anything that's exciting that's coming out? Maybe it's an article or a building or anything that you'd like to promote while you've got a moment.
Yeah, so the most exciting thing going to be actually a podcast I'm just participating in right now. It will be published very soon.
Great plug.
But in terms of projects, so last week we launched Cloud One, which is a hotel and condo residences in Miami. Starting construction very soon, but it's an awesome firm out of Germany with great track record, and it will be in Wynwood, so it will be a beautiful building that really contribute to the community. Then we're launching next week officially District 11 as a next level of construction. That is actually an 11 office building neighborhood in Sharjah in the UAE. Then we're launching in 2 weeks, I think. I hope I can say it. It's a Grand Hotel in Dubai. This is going to be basically an IHG property that's happening right now. And then, hopefully you're going to hear about our big master plan very soon. But I think those are all my plugs that I have.
No, those are great plugs. It's exciting, global, all the things. I mean, I love having kind of followed along with your story and seeing how, all of this has started to come together and build into something even bigger. And so, you're out here, you're leading in what you're doing. There's a ton of firms, hopefully, who are all listening here with bated breath, understanding about, what's something that they can do, what's a next step that someone can take to understand how do you bring AI into your firm? How do you think differently about the way that you work? How do you show up tomorrow and do something differently? What advice would you give, or any resources that you would share to someone who is trying to understand what that next step might look like?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, you have to start with a lot of transparency and honesty also towards your client. At the beginning, we told them, look, we're retooling our design process. We may fail or we may actually surprise you, but we show you also the steps that we're going through. And they loved it, actually. They really were curious about how we suddenly changed some of the processes. Now that's done. We feel very secure about our process. So we became, by showing it, right? It's just a process. In the end, we want to really show just the results. And then you can kind of gear the conversation again much more away from the process, more to the purpose, the reasons, and the results that you generate. So I think, you have to kind of calibrate your own interaction with your clients and the people you're working with, because you are a little bit in a unknown territory, and it would be wrong to guarantee that you can find the right solutions without you have actually established the right process. But every one of our clients went onto the journey, and now actually people hire us because of the journey, because they want to be in that kind of new future realm of AI enhanced design. And look, I mean, people always have a little bit the fear that AI is now like limiting our creativity. For me, AI is actually the collective creativity that we can tap into. And I feel almost enticed to credit actually humanity for some of our designs, right? Because we use these kind of tools that is a collection of so much creativity from the engineers that generated the system of AI, and also all the data that is being used for the large language models. And we are then the ones who prompt around and kind of collect the right kind of sources from within. But there's really credit for humanity at this point for an amazing tool that we all can use now.
That's brings new meaning to that old saying of standing on the shoulders of giants.
Absolutely.
I think that's a really poetic way to think about design in a context where some people would be worried about plagiarism and copyright. This is really just about getting to the best ideas and letting creativity and imagination win. So I hope that's what people take away from this conversation. I definitely learned that I can host my own podcast, which is, a really exciting kind of personal moment.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah. But I think that, the thing that I'll really take away is that, even with AI collaboration, especially with AI, collaboration is only getting stronger. So we'll probably bring Bobby back for future episodes. And, hopefully we'll have you on again in a couple of seasons time, Matthias, to catch up on where all this is going, because I think that the sky is very much the limit at this point, and you guys are definitely proving that with your ongoing work. So congratulations again on the Fast Company recognition, and I'm sure it's just the first of many more to come.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It was super, super fun to reflect with you and also to envision like new ideas, which like a podcast like this really triggers for me in a very positive sense. And let's talk in a couple of weeks, months, or years. But I think it will be more months because it goes so fast.
I know.
There's so much more to report again in a couple of days. So stay tuned.
No, I can't wait to catch up again soon, Matthias. Thank you so much. Thanks to producer Rob, everyone really back at the Barriers to Entry production team, but particularly producer Rob today for holding my hand through this one. Barriers to Entry is a part of the Surround Podcast Network. You can head to surroundpodcasts.com. That's podcasts with an S. Smash the follow button and then join us next time as we continue to break down the barriers to entry.